I'm going to call the Planning and Economic Development Committee to order. My name is Deborah Root, Chair of the committee, and we're going to start off today with a roll call.
Mrs. Root,
Here?
Mr. Barnes,
Present.
Mrs. Burdick,
Here.
Mr. Curran, Mr. Dibble,
Here.
Mr. Healy,
Here.
Mrs. Hopkins,
Here.
Mr. Ricky,
Here.
Mr. Crandall.
Here.
8 members present.
Okay, thank you, Megan. The first item on the list is the approval of the minutes, and I'll entertain a motion for March 17th minutes. Mr. Dibble makes the motion, Mr. Healy seconds it. Any discussions on the minutes? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Next up is Rita Sobeck Lynch, Employment and Training Director. She is not with us today, but she has given us her monthly report. And she has 2 MOEs for us to act on today. One is to fill a senior employment and training counselor. The MOE is in our packet, and this position is due to a retirement. Do we have any questions? I will entertain a motion for her to be able to fill this position. Mrs. Burdick makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Ricky seconds it. Any further discussion on this? Mr. Dibble?
Has the joint administrator signed off?
I have not signed off on this. I would have. I think this might have been caught in between return from ad hoc to the normal procedure. So normally, if this had gone to ad hoc, I wouldn't have signed off on it because I'd be reviewing it in ad hoc. So that's why you don't see my signature there. I don't have any problem with this, though.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Her next position was summer youth counselor. This is a position that she fills every year, and I see that it is 100% funded by the TANF allocation that is received for the Summer Youth Employment Program.
I'll move it. Oops.
Mr. Healy moves it. Second. Mrs. Hopkins seconds it. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Next up on our agenda is Mr. Keir Durham, Planning Director. He's got his monthly report. He sent it to us. Keir, is there anything you want to highlight? And do we have any questions for Keir?
Good afternoon, everybody. On my report, there's a few items I wanted to mention. The broadband group, ACTDC, that's Allegheny County Telecommunications Development Corp., recently came to an agreement with WXXI regarding the WXXY tower and using that to install some radios. And that will allow the 3 providers to then hook up customers in that area of Houghton, Rushford. And they expect that work to be completed by May 1st. And the install, once that install is completed, then they can immediately start signing folks up and hooking up additional customers. We've been getting a lot of requests for community technical assistance in the last few months. Much of this appears to be related to the local waterfront revitalization planning effort, and it's definitely going to keep us busy. Communities are realizing that they haven't been doing much planning for a long time, and so between that and Alfred State College wanting to do an architectural review in 3 different municipalities this year, it's really changed things a little bit from the usual mill. So right now, Alfred is looking to have part of their class work August through November. Part of the class will be here in Belmont, Amity. Part of the class will be Belfast, and part of the class will be up in Fillmore. So we are receiving requests from all these communities to say, what can you do to help us get ready for the class? So we've been working heavily with the town of Amity and Village of Belmont in the last month, and they've decided to do a full redo of their comprehensive plan for the town and a first comprehensive plan in the village. So that's taken a bit of effort, and there's currently a survey. You should have gotten an email about that, and all of you should fill that out. Anybody in the room, because it's not just for people who live here. It's people who work here, do any shopping here, commute through here, anything like that. So please take 10 minutes or less and fill that out. And the town of Elmond has called, as a surprise to me, they have restarted their zoning law revision. And the Village of Belmont called, and they're restarting their look at their zoning law and their map. And the town of Belfast met with Michelle Denhoff this week, and they've decided they would really like to start a comprehensive plan. And the town of Scioto has decided they would like to create a planning board, maybe. They're exploring that. And the town of Willing has decided they would like to do a comprehensive plan. So we usually do maybe 2 a year. So that's going to be a bit of a lift. Just letting you know. But it's great. It's great news. And another small lift is we're starting the hazard mitigation plan update. Now, some of you may recall when we passed this in 2018, and it was only 3,000 pages long. So I have tagged our new planning and development specialist, Nick Arquette, who's in the back, and I'll talk to you later on another subject, to act as team leader and become the specialist on that. And so we're just getting started, but that is due in about 12 to 18 months. We need that finished, that update. So it's going to be a big lift also. Trails and outdoor recreation has been put at the end of the agenda. But so Michelle and Nick and perhaps some others are here to talk about that item. And the last thing I wanted to note was in the last month, we were notified that Paramount Studios was doing filming in the town of Allen. When I met with you last month, we didn't know anything about it. And then shortly thereafter, the phone started ringing from the producers looking for all sorts of interesting things, and Michelle was trying to help them out as best we could with that information, such as security, parking, all that. And my understanding is they're well through the filming process, and that some of them are staying in county and many are staying down in Hornell. So it's a benefit to 2 counties at least.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
on that, I read the article in the paper. That goes through something in Buffalo, a film commission or something like that.
Correct.
At the county level, there's nothing similar as far as permitting or anything like that.
It's so rare that we get film projects like this that we've never really gone there. However, I did speak to the planner from Erie County, and apparently the movie world goes through his office, and their entity that oversees this is looking to spin off out of that office and become a not-for-profit that is more for the entire region. But he was actually way more aware of this movie, probably well ahead of me than we were. So,
And we don't have any representation on that commission.
no. I don't know any more details on that group than I just told you, actually. That's, but he did say they're looking to spin off out of the county government and be, a force of good, we hope, to bring more projects to Western New York, and we're part of that group, so.
Right, and the state provides incentives to
Absolutely.
production companies to film in New York. So, okay, thank you.
And those were the highlights I wanted to hit.
Question.
Oh, question? Still on the report?
Mrs. Hopkins?
Kira, this is Judy Hopkins. Would you say a few words about the Chesapeake Bay Conservancy that is happening in Allegheny County?
So Chesapeake Bay, we have actually 4 major watersheds in the county. The Allegheny River running to the Mississippi, Genesee to the Great Lakes, a little bit up in the northwest that runs down Zoar Valley and into Lake Erie. And then there's a part in Alfred, Almond, and a little bit into Burns that runs into the Chesapeake Bay, down the Susquehanna. And that particular watershed is more controlled and has more advocacy, you might say, than the others that we work with. And so they have a whole entity down there somewhere near the Chesapeake Bay that has taken on a project, and they're doing all sorts of research. They're analyzing what effects all these little pieces have on the overall thing. So they sent us a request. They had done some mapping, data mapping, and we're looking for pollutants and land cover and different things. And so that's what we took care of, that quick review for those couple of towns.
Thank you.
So Kier, next up, we have a CPACE municipal agreement.
Yes, I had put that on your desk just a few moments ago. That is the draft that we received last fall. That is not final. The county attorney's office will have to clean it up a little bit, finalize it, put the right names on it, things of that nature, the right date. But we're hoping, since you passed the law at your last board meeting, this was another piece that we were supposed to do to get this off the ground. And it's basically just an agreement between the county and that agency so that they can administrate it on our behalf.
So you're looking for a resolution today for us to approve this agreement and send it to the county attorney to look over for final.
And prepare it
Text.
for full legislature approval.
Okay. Do we have anybody who would like to make that motion? Mr. Healy, do we have a second? Mr. Ricky, any further discussion on this?
Madam Chairperson?
Yes.
Thank you. Once this is done, they're just going to run their operation, and it's just a straight shot to business owners, right?
Yep.
We're out of it.
Pretty
right?
much. They're supposed to give us a report every once in a while on how it's going here.
We won't be approving every little
No.
agreement they
There might be
enter
a few
into.
more pieces of paper that come through in the coming months, but as far as I'm understanding, you're exactly right. You're most of the way through this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of this, please say aye. Anybody opposed? As motion's carried. Kira, is there anything else?
No, not unless you have something.
Could I just say, there are a number of things on Kier's report that are items that my office are responsible for that I'm very, very grateful that Kier's office was able to help with. So there are a number of plans on there that I would have had to do alone if it wasn't for Kier and Michelle and Nick and Angela's help. So thank you for the help.
Appreciate the acknowledgement. No problem.
Thank you, Kier. So next up, we have Gretchen Hanchett, who's the Greater Allegheny Chamber of Commerce Executive Director and our Tourism Coordinator.
Good afternoon, everybody. Don't let this weather fool you. It is spring. So, since I reported last, we continue to work on our project with the GLOW Group, which is Genesee, Livingston, Orleans, and Wyoming County. And what we intend to do is work with a PR firm that will connect us with this group and our target market. So right now we've met and we are optimizing our website so it will feed into their website through RSS feeds. And that is just a process that we are going through at this time. Steve has continued to update the I Love New York website, and he's also reviewing our website and making sure that any businesses or events or anything are updated. As you will see, I have a list of events on this report, and everybody seems to be hopeful that these events will be happening. I still think that we will come to see what really comes to fruition and see what the guidelines that we need to follow with it. But spring is here and events are back, so I'm very grateful to see that happening. I am right now at a New York State Tourism Industry Conference. You might not know that, but it's a virtual one. And it's for the next 3 days. They've got some great information in the recovery of tourism and some steps that we need to take. So I'll be happy to share that with our group as we go through that process. Once again, I'd like to thank KZ 102. They have been doing public service announcements about tourism for the last couple of months, up to 155 spots a month. So we are very grateful that they continue to promote tourism and support Allegheny County in that way. So basically, I think that's where we're at with this, with tourism. So those are my highlights.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen. I have one question. I want to go back to you. When you were talking about the website, you said our website. Is that website the Chamber's website, the Western New York website?
Western New York Wilds
Okay, thank you.
website.
Does anybody have any questions? Mrs. Hopkins?
Yes, actually, I have a couple.
Sure.
When you talked about your regional partners, you've got two different things here on your report. Number one is the destination optimization, so on, creating.
Correct.
The other one is the fresh air adventure. Which one were you referring to?
I was referring to, they kind of go hand in hand. We started this optimization actually last year. Angela has been working on that with the county, and we are working on that. We'll continue working on that for the Western New York Wilds website. The Fresh Airs is with Genesee, Livingston, Orleans, and Wyoming County. And they kind of go hand in hand because we'll be tied to their website, and then they'll be sending people back to our website. But we want to get them to be working together, so they transfer back and forth easily.
Okay, so on that one, then, I went to their website, and do we have any events on that website right now?
It's just, we're just working through that. We will, right now. We will be working with their website company. We just got their spreadsheet, and what we're doing is making sure that our packages are put together. They've been doing it for a while. We've been invited to come into this group this past year, so we will have events up there. And what they'll do is feed in that once we get that set up.
I see, thank you. And just one other question. Was on your business awards event that you had last week.
Yes.
I was sorry that there was short notice on that. I think it was only 4 days before the event happened. The thing that surprised me was that the two business awards were not local companies. Is there no company in Allegheny County that would have qualified for those awards?
Basically, when the chamber goes through and looks at awards, they choose them from their members, and they both have been members of our chamber. So that's why we did it at this time. So that
Thank
was a
you.
choice by the board.
I would congratulate Karina McKnight for winning the award. She's a very worthy recipient on that one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Gretchen? If not, thank you.
Okay,
Gretchen.
thank you.
Next up is Craig Clark, Economic Development, Industrial Development Agency. He's given us a monthly report. Craig, is there anything you would like to highlight, and do we have any questions for Craig at this time?
Yeah, the only things I would highlight, although we're moving slow in some spots, we're still moving forward, is the Great Lakes Cheese Project continues to move forward. They're still committed to being in the community and as well at the crossroads. There's some last archaeology testing and a last report that's about finished. And hopefully we can clear up the land issue within the next few months, and then they'll be ready to fully announce that they're moving at the crossroads, but they're not willing to quite do that until the land issue is taken care of. And the other thing with Great Lakes Cheese is everyone should know that they have announced another project, but it's not the same project. It has nothing to do with what they're doing in New York State or Allegheny County in Texas. And so they're opening up another super plant in just about as big, but not quite as big, 280,000 square feet in Texas. So they're on the move, they're expanding, and they're still committed to the county. So I just wanted everybody to know that is not our project. It just happens to be timing at about the same time frame.
Mr. Healy?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. Mr. Clark, do things move a lot faster in Texas, do you think, than they do in New York State?
Yeah, they move a lot faster, and because that was the one interesting thing that my contact's been telling us right along, is this, they just kind of got the idea, I think it was about 6 months ago, and they're already announcing moving forward, and they've been very, very helpful, and we have been very, very helpful at the county level, but we wish we'd have a little bit more fast response from the state itself.
Go ahead, Mr. Healy.
Yes, I have one other question. I was at District 2 legislators meeting the other evening down here in Belmont, and there still seems to be some confusion about the property taxes involved with any new facility. And it is my understanding that where the new plant was built in Cuba, built anyplace else in Allegheny County, built down at the crossroads, wherever, they're going to get a pilot on their taxes. Is that correct?
Yeah, they had asked for that kind of commitment at any site in the county, and we gave them that commitment that we would do the similar type of pilot, which we just recently actually passed. Wasn't a commitment of what, but the similar type of pilot at any place in the county that they located.
Thank you.
The only other news is everyone should know the Wellsville Business Park is aggressively being sought after. We have a number of people looking at it. I talk to the owner about every other day. Unfortunately, he's usually on a golf course and I'm not, but he does talk to us quite often, and he's got 4 or 5 different venues looking at it. I sent him 2. He's got about 3, so hopefully we'll be able to announce. So it's still continuing to be looked at throughout the state as to hopefully landing a fairly good sized company. It's not what we were looking for. We're just hoping to get some smaller companies, but if we get 1 or 2 larger ones, that'd be great. So that's moving forward. I don't really have too much else. Everything's in the report, unless there's any questions.
Mr. Stockton, you have a question?
Not a question. I just wanted to congratulate the Startup Allegheny Group on that collegiate competition. I read the articles that have appeared in several communications, and all 3 projects were very interesting.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. What was very interesting is all the students said great things about the project. You know, the fact that it was a virtual presentation, they really enjoyed it. But I think it's that first good connection with a lot of the college students. And the one winner from the Houghton Academy, or Houghton College, excuse me, is already looking to locate and build a business starting this fall. So I think it's going to start with a bang, which is really cool, which will help farmers as well. If you didn't look at it, basically it's using drones to give small farmers the advantage that the bigger farmers have at a very low cost, to show them that they can increase their yields by changing their fertilizer and working on the actual land in a better and easier way. And they showed that it's a very high profit margin for the farmers to do it, and obviously they make a little money when they're doing the drones and doing the work. And most small farmers don't have the resources or understand how to do that, so I think that's really good for the county.
Very good, very exciting. Anything else for Mr. Clark while he's up?
Just another highlight. I just want to commend the opening of Dunkin' Donuts at Quickly's, and when I've been by there, often the line has been in the drive-through around 2 corners of the building. So
yeah, it is interesting. I was there the first 2 days they were open, and they said it was just like I had told them it'd be steady. It wouldn't be like a big long line, but it's a steady line, and they're always busy. So it's very good. So it's helped the truck stop.
I believe you shared with me that You were there at midnight?
Yeah, I drove back last night where I'm assistant coach of a soccer team, and we drove back at midnight. And just like during the day, that place was full. It was up between all the trucks and everybody else, and all the pumps were busy and lights were on. And it's really nice to see that at that facility.
That's a lot of sales tax for us. That's good.
Yeah, it could be quite a bit of sales tax, I would guess.
Yes, Mr. Decker.
Is Duncan planning any kind of a hard opening there? Or?
I asked them that when they did their, they actually opened Thursday, where the official opening was Friday. We'd like to have a real kind of a grand opening to thank them. I thanked them personally, but it'd be nice to have the community to thank them, so I will follow up with that.
Mr. Decker? No? Okay.
Gary?
Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, it's a question that I keep forgetting to bring up,
Uh-oh.
and that is, do they have facilities for electric recharging vehicles?
They don't at this stage. We have talked to them about that. I think they will add those, but yeah.
What is the standard charge, if there is such a thing, for
How
someone
much? I don't know how much. It's all over the map as to what they charge, usually through a credit card, so I do not know that for sure.
Thank you.
But it'd be nice to have it, because there aren't too many public places to get charges.
It would be nice to have one, and wasn't that one of the questions that the production company was looking for, where we had charges, electrical charges,
Electrical
refueling?
charging stations, yeah,
Yeah.
you just can't find them. The colleges typically have them. There are isolated places that have them, but they're not publicly, like Bachman's have one too, but they're just not publicly accessible.
Mrs. Burdick?
Tinkertard Hardware in Alfred Station will be installing one soon.
Good. I knew there was one coming. I didn't know where, yeah.
It's something that we looked at when we first did the park and ride lot. We didn't install them, but I believe it's
The
prepared to
conduits-
look at
The
that.
conduit's
and-
ready. We could put them in.
Yeah, we started kind of talking about that idea again here within the last month. So.
Right.
And I believe NYSERDA has a program.
Yeah, it's low to no cost, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. Yeah.
We have them in Cuba too, at the old Greyhound, just put them in.
Yes, I did see that, yes.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Haley?
One other thing I'd like you to share with us, and we discussed earlier, that there seems to be, with the new administration in Washington, not only is there a lot more funding for certain programs out there, but there's a lot more priorities being put on green energy and to include electric cars. And I know that there's been some interest again in the Tracewell Building over in the Cuba
Right.
area, which was originally an electric plant, and that I understand that there was one of the interested parties in that was a electric car component manufacturer. And can you speak to any of those initiatives here in the county?
I can't really, in that particular one, we did put an RFP in, or RFI, we gave the information on the building, and I haven't heard back yet, but they're interested in the building. It meets all the requirements, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Clark.
Thank you.
So we have something special here today. We're going to get a Trails and Outdoor Recreation Committee update. I asked Nick and Michelle yesterday morning. They didn't have a very long time to prepare for this, but they've been doing a lot of exciting work all through the last 6 months through COVID. They have been holding virtual committee meetings with people from around the state and local and bringing everybody together. I'm going to let Nick, you can explain what Michelle is hanging out. I saw I'm a visual person, and they had Nick has been working on some maps and connecting, and I just thought this was pretty exciting and a good time for them to give us an update on all the exciting things that are going on in the Outdoor Rec Trails Committee. So I'll turn it over to you, Nick, and to Michelle.
All right, can everybody hear me well? Good to go? Okay, so I'm just going to give you today a very high-level introduction of kind of what you should be thinking about as ATV use on roads comes up as a topic in the near future here. The overarching goal is to make connectivity between economic centers in the county. So the first thing I want you to look at is the snowmobile map. It's gray with the little green dots, triangles, my bad. As you can see, there's 19 possible economic centers along the snowmobile trails, and these are from 2018, 2019, so they may have changed slightly, but it gives you the overall idea that 19 different economic centers. So people aren't just riding snowmobiles for fun or out in the woods. They're doing it to go to destinations, to visit their favorite restaurants, to go get gas, things like that, visiting local business. So then if you keep that in mind and pull out the ATV Economic Connections map here, you can see that the blue towns with the red roads are already open to ATV use. They have ATV laws available, and then the yellow with purple roads are considering it right now. As you can see, there's a lot of different hamlets, villages that are along these routes and near these roads. And looking from top to bottom in the county, you know, neighboring counties all the way to the Pennsylvania border, we do have an opportunity to try and open up the county to people coming through when they're going to Tall Pines ATV Park in Andover, or people coming up from even Pennsylvania to go to Tall Pines and visit these different destinations and economic centers. So just overall, I want you to keep that in mind as these topics come up, that the overall goal is to connect economic centers throughout the county and help our local businesses grow in the seasons that, you know, snowmobiles aren't available or can't be ridden. That's all for now.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Healy.
Do you know of any efforts from the ATV manufacturers or riders or any groups like that to form a statewide association like the snowmobilers have? I think that'd be most helpful in, you know, not only for local governments in moving ahead on these initiatives, but also for the landowners and obviously the ATV users themselves.
Yes, so we are working with Jeff Binga in addition to some local community members. Jeff is the president of NYSORVA, which is the New York State Association of Off-Road and Outdoor Recreation Vehicles, or Association. He is helping us gather the information that's necessary, and we do intend to do a public presentation and put it out there to our communities that the towns are passing these laws, and you know, that there's opportunity to create the groups and get things moving for them to be able to establish trails and things in the future.
Do you think that's possible for them to get the same recognition and support from the state as well, or?
They are recreational vehicles, and they're motorized, and so they would qualify for the same grants as the snowmobile associations would.
Thank you.
So I guess I'm going to recap here. This map shows that there are 6 towns right now that have that have passed local laws to allow ATVers on certain roads, not some of them, maybe all of them, but mostly is from trailhead to trailhead. They can use those laws. You have 3 towns that are that are talking about that right now. I know the town of Sile may be talking about that there. If you look at this map, and if you go from north to south, you can see, if we're trying to make a connector, that you can see the towns that are not, we need to maybe work with or talk with about opening up some of their, and that would be the town of Sile, and Wellsville, Elma, and through York's Corner to make a north-south passage through the county. It's pretty interesting when Nick was laying over, he did these in layers, and the dark spots are county or state land, I believe.
Yes, the dark green is DEC State Forest property. And then the little bit lighter, you can tell in the northeast side of Angelica and a little bit in Birdsville as well, is the county forest property.
So I think this is a first start in showing and connecting and showing and overlapping where trails already exist, what's out there and where are the holes that we need to fill. Michelle, you've been going to some of the towns and talking about these local laws. You and I talked a little bit yesterday. Some of these towns, to make these connectors, and I'm going to let you speak to this, have asked you about county roads. Do you want to just speak to that too a little bit?
Yes, and I would just like to point out that just because they're grayed out on this ATV map does not mean that they are not interested or that they're not talking about them. It's just because we may not know if they've had any conversations about that or not. The yellow ones are highlighted because we do know for sure that they are considering laws. I am going to the Birdsville meeting next month to talk to them about an ATV law, or, you know, to consider that. The town of Allen had discussed it last year, but I haven't had a chance to get any updates from them yet. And I have had some conversations with the town of Cuba, who is not opposed to having a law, but they would like to hear something from the county first as far as what they're going to do, you know, if the county is willing to open up any county roads before they make a decision. And if you look at this map in detail, you'll see that some of the roads, the town roads that are open, may look like they lead to nowhere. But right now, we're only showing the town roads that are allowing ATV use. So if it stops in the middle of nowhere, that could be because it leads to a county road or a state road that isn't currently allowing use. So our next step, in addition to reaching out to community members and giving them the public knowledge about how to create groups and things, we're also going to look at the county roads in detail and determine which ones would be necessary to make those connections for the towns that already have their laws in place.
Okay. Mr. Crandall?
Thank you. I had a very nice visual, nice map, by the way, and not just a reminder to you, but to everyone. If these are available prior to the meeting, we can get them up on the screen, and then everyone that's watching from home can be able to see it. But I know it was last minute.
We had less than 24 hours.
I know. Reminder as we have these things coming forward, though, for each of us to be able to use that. My question is, and the different projects, large projects that we've looked at, you know, when this was first discussed, the West Virginia, Hatfield and McCoy project, Tug Hill, others that are out there, as this gains ground, literally, is there a way to measure the impact? Is there anything in place in a way that we can tell that there's an increase in use? We've had the kayak launch sites and pocket parks, and just visually, when the weather's nice, we can go by and say, oh my gosh, look at that, the parking lot's full. Is there more of a way that we'll be able to look back and say, boy, look how this has grown?
The towns right now that have laws that have passed also require a registration fee, so I think we would be able to track it in that sense. And then also, I think economically, you would just be able to see them. I mean, when you go to Andover and have the ATV park there, they have all of their town roads open, and the ATVs in the summertime are very visible there. And you can go to other locations that allow access, and you can see, just like snowmobiles, they have just ATVs are lined up at the restaurants and things. And I think that once we get this open and publicize it more, similar to those other parks that you had mentioned in other states, we will see, you'll just be able to see it everywhere.
Thank you.
So not only has the committee been talking about ATVs, they've been concentrating on it, and I think this is probably the least developed trail system that we have here in the county. But during the meetings, we've been working with the equestrian groups, the trails, and we might want to give them an update on, they had gotten some Ralph Wilson grants for some work on trails up in Phillips Creek. So I just don't want you to think that this is all they've been working on. And Michelle, would you like to give an overview of some of the other work that the committee's been doing too?
Sure. So we have been meeting monthly, and for the most part, we've been doing virtual meetings. Some other updates that we can give, we have the town of Hume, town of Canada, and town and village of Cuba are participating in the Trail Towns initiative through Letchworth Gateway Villages, which is a national program, and it helps to revitalize local communities by growing outdoor tourism and small businesses using local assets, promoting trail users to stop outside of the trail to see what the towns have to offer. And it is quite a process. The towns have just started that. They created their committees. We do have a few committee members on our Trails Committee that update us on how that process is going. The DEC and some other trail stakeholders up there have organized volunteer events for the 10th annual I Love My Park Day. This particular one would be in the West Almond Trail System and is scheduled for May 1st. The annual park days are something that New York State does every year. This is the 10th annual, and that does take quite a bit of work from the DEC office. Pauline Burns, who you had mentioned previously, is of equestrian interest, and she has a lot of work in the West Almond Trail System. She's very active up there. She's written a grant to the Ralph Wilson Foundation and received that last year to do some trail work up there. She's also pursuing some other grants to do future work on other trails. We have some snowmobile community members, and they're working with Houghton College and the Greenway Parks manager, Christine Uribe, to add some bridges to cross over various creeks in certain areas. And the intent is to be able to use those over multiple seasons. So they won't just be for snowmobile access, they will be for other trail users on the Greenway and other access areas. And then Genesee River Wilds has been busy talking about their annual float and possibly scheduling another event. Usually they only do one event a year. This year they're also talking about doing an ornithology float with the help of a professor up at Houghton College. Ornithology is just a fancy word for birding.
I'm glad she told us that.
Yeah, I didn't know either. So, and then also the Genesee River Wilds president, Thomas Rhett, worked with Genesee River Watch to put in mile marker signs and the mile marker signs and when to get out of the river, so you know how many miles you've gone and when the next access point is. From Genesee, Pennsylvania up to Portageville, and the idea is to continue that along the entire Genesee River up to Rochester. So we've been really busy. There's lots of stuff happening with trails, and this is not an exclusive. Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on. It's hard to keep track of.
Yes, Mr. Stockton.
And we're just, with Thomas Rhett in Genesee River Access, we are creating another access point on the north edge of Houghton, but it would be on town of Canada property again, and be real close to the highway, to the Greenway, and then off to the river. So that one's under development right now.
Any other questions for Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, I'd asked the question previously, and it reminded me, when you're talking about trails, are there electric ATVs and electric vehicles of that type that would be used on these trails in the future?
I believe that's a possibility. I am not familiar with how or what is available in the ATV world, but we have talked.
Same thing with snowmobiles.
Yeah. Right now, I believe that only snowmobiles are allowed access on the Greenway trails and some of the other ones. Not all of them allow motorized access, and so the idea for the ATVs, not only would we advocate for use of ATVs on those multi-use trails, but once the groups are created within the towns, the interest groups, then they would need help, and they would create their own trails and get grant money and work on those
I
as
guess
well.
my question is just a lack of knowledge, and that is, are there such things as electric ATVs and that you're aware of?
There is?
Sean says yes.
There you go. Yeah.
So it's there, but it's not big in Allegheny County at this point, but something to think about for the future.
Yes.
Comes down to cost, yeah. And I want to also point out that we have usually 2 to 3 DEC employees sitting in on these meetings and working with us. And I think we've developed a pretty nice working relationship with them and helping each other back and forth. So there is an awful lot of work going on. You haven't heard about it, but these two have been working really hard. The committee's been working very hard, and I thank you for that. Thank you for the update today, and we'll bring you back, and I'll give you more notice, so then you can throw them up on the screen next time.
We would love to do a more formal presentation with some information on the screen there for you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other old business for today? Is there any new business for today? Is there anything for the good of the order? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Mr. Dibble makes the motion, Mr. Ricky seconds it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.